J Jinx!
Truck stop!
This is JJ Jinx, and I've got some Ozark trail knives. I bought these a few months ago, I think. Just kind of was in a nearby town, went to a different Walmart than usual, and I basically put my hand on the shelf and swiped and got one of everything they had that I didn't already have. And then I went on a road trip after that, where I stopped at many a Walmart, but I didn't buy any Ozark trail knives because I had completely forgotten what I had already picked up. Then I got back and went on another trip, and I'm back from that now, and it's about time I opened these things. So these were new for 2023. I'm a little bit late on that wagon, but these late model Ozark trail knives have been getting generally pretty damn good reviews. They're generally well regarded. I can see that they've gone all in on the half packaged knife look. So let's dig into these. I'm gonna just give my first impressions. This is one that I almost bought on the trip because I liked the red colored liner accent pieces. And then I was like, no, I might have one of these already at home. And that was the wise decision because here it is. Alright, any interesting information on here? Stainless steel blade, polypropylene handle, so plastic, liner lock, pocket clip, 3-inch blade, 4-inch handle. Alright. Well, immediately, the shape of the handle with this exaggerated swoop is vaguely reminiscent of the Ontario Rat 1 or 2. Actuating the liner lock is pretty good. They've carved out a nice little niche just for your thumb, and it makes accessing it pretty easy. That is a plus. It's got a tip-down only deep ride pocket clip, blacked out. It's a pretty compact little thing. No open assistance, but it's got a flipper, tab, and ambidextrous thumb studs, and it's riding on Teflon or nylon or something. And we got a little triangular cutout for the lanyard, folks. Upon unboxing, the centering is a little bit off, but tolerable as long as it stays put. Let's see if it can be flipped. It might need a bit of breaking in if you want to do that, but a little wrist action ought to do it. Check out the shape of the blade. It's got a long recurved belly. It's almost spear point tip way out there. It's painted black. Got the Ozark Trail logo emblazoned onto it. The polypropylene handle is knurled, very reminiscent of G10. And you got this little bit of weight reduction right there in the handle. A kind of strange oval impression. That's different. Oh, and it happens to be on the other side, right where the pocket clip comes down. But they've got quite a bit of lift off at the end of the pocket clip, so that shouldn't be a problem. Matter of fact, this might actually come up a little bit too far. That could get snagged on thread of your shirt, which that has happened to me plenty of times. Hand feel is all right. I mean, I'd have to really, this is just first impressions. It's a little bit hot spotty here and there because the pocket clip takes up a pretty large amount of space there. So it makes it feel a little bit thicker at the top and thins out at the bottom. And I can definitely feel it. If I were to seriously carry this, for serious use, I would probably file that little nub there a little bit, or maybe just remove the clip altogether. And the pivot's pretty smooth, but it's a little stiff, and that's okay. Not everything has to be a flipper. And that red accent is continued around the pivot screw. Overall, it's okay. Pretty good for Ozark Trail, but there's nothing about this that has a wow factor to me. Different blade shape though, so that's nice. So these knives all cost between $5 and $8. Let's check this one out. It's a fixed blade knife with a fun fidgety pocket clip situation. It's got a black oxide coated blade, another polypropylene handle, sheath included, 3-inch blade, 4-inch handle, 360-degree rotatable belt clip. You gotta rotate the piece to fit through the hole. It's like a children's game where you gotta mash the shapes through the corresponding shaped holes. Don't know how I feel about that yet. The clip is just a bent piece of plastic, so that should be easy to slip in and out of things. And it's kind of barbed on the end. Hopefully that would help keep it in place. I don't know. And here's the beefy blade with its pick. That is actually really comfortable. The polypropylene scales are pretty smooth, so that could get kind of slick. There's a little bit of an apex to them to give it a roundish or more rounded shape. It's full tang with a lanyard hole, partially serrated, and a pretty, like I said, a beefy drop point blade. Kind of reminds me of like a ZTO 350 blade without the recurve. No idea what's actually coating this blade. They just say black oxide. I know what an oxide is, but I mean, okay, it's a black one, I guess. Consistency of the edge out of the packaging. I'm feeling a rough spot out here towards the tip. Not uncommon for that to show up in the parts where the edge has that curvature to it. Let's see how it goes in. No snap. Oh, I spoke too soon. There is a snap. Oh, gosh. Wow. That's snug. So there is a snap. It's just it really resists going in. Oh. Well, that's actually pretty reassuring. Just don't count on it for quick deployment. Oh. I guess at some point, with some breaking in, maybe you can use this jimped plastic fin part to push it off. Pretty difficult to do with one hand. Ow. Not even gonna bother trying. I don't think that's a bad thing, though. I'd rather have it too tight than too loose, you know? Yeah, it's quite comfy. There's some pretty aggressive-ish jimping on the spine. Kind of like it. Wouldn't be my first choice, though. Well, that's a rather handsome-looking devil. And yet again, we have the 3-inch blade with a 4-inch polypropylene handle. A little bit of factory grease here and there. I like the big bolsters, but this one's got a little bit of a defect in it. Looks like a tool chattered across it right about there at some point. Very minor, and nope, it's got that on the other side too. Or maybe someone dropped it and kicked it across the room. I don't know. Bit of a swell in those polypropylene handles. The bolsters, both the top and the bottom, are attached to the liners. They're not just one piece like you would find in like a buck knife. It is liner locked. Centering is also just a tickle to the right. Probably not a terrible thing. That could just be the liner lock pushing against it a little bit. Very narrow pocket clip. I don't know if I would like that. The swell of the scale just starts to recede downward as the pocket clip tip swoops upward. So that is actually a pretty good situation. That should be able to get in just fine. And the scales are slick. They're just a tiny bit textured. And so that should just slide right in. It is a high riding style pocket clip, so you got to be okay with that. And it does have a little bit of a jimped flipper tab that kind of sticks out. Let's see how that works. Yeah, with some braking in, that should work just fine. And it's hard to tell what they have as the spacer material. I'm looking down in there, and I can see it looks like nylon or Teflon. Okay, but there's oh, I see what's going on. There's like these grooves cut out in there in the liner. So there's posts on the blade that go through those little channels, and that I guess acts as a stop pin in a way. Yeah, interesting. It's got them on both sides. See that? Okay. Forgot to check the other one for play. This one does have a hint of it, but it's not terrible. This one doesn't have any. The hand feels good. And you got a classic satin finished drop point blade, which I like. Feels very consistent. So, well made. And you got the Ozark Trail logo emblazoned on the blade. I'm glad they put that on everything. It's a cool logo. I don't know, I guess the only complaint I would have, and it's a nitpicky thing, is the part of the liner lock that you push in is a bit rough cut. There's no chamfering. Sometimes they'll even put like a groove in there just to make it a little easier on your fingers. You push it, but you also feel that when you hold the knife, because that's right where one of your fingers goes. So you got a little bit of a rough edge, but not a huge deal. It can be filed. No thumb studs, so you do have to open it that way. I kind of like this one better than the other one. It's the best of the folders so far from this collection. Let's do another fixed blade. This one is completely encapsulated in plastic for a change. Stainless steel blade, polypropylene handle, 3-inch, 4-inch sheath included. I've noticed as I've been cutting these, I get these like little camouflaged slivery worm things coming out of the packaging. Got a whole collection of them. Kindling. That's different. But what's not different is that it has a pink. Well, this one's got an unusual look to it. We have these impressions, these grooves in the bolster and in the handle on both sides. Looks like it is full tank construction and fully pinned. 6 pins to be exact. Oh no, you got a 7th one up here in the bolster. A little bit difficult to see because they kind of polish it in with when they do the finishing, which is great. Feels awesome, actually. One of the things I noticed right away, there's this kind of angular tapering going on at the bottom of the knife, and that's right where my pinky rests. So that's actually a pretty good feel. It's very smooth. Some people might not like that. They want a little bit of texture. And the combination of that angled and bolster with the scoops going on, that's a really nice look. I really like it. I especially appreciate the way that the apex of the bolsters kind of point in the direction of the grind edge of the blade. I don't know. It's just something that kind of draws the eye. Blades has a little bit of a problem here. 1, 2, 1. Right here, it's catching. So there's an imperfection up there somewhere. Let's see if we can spot it in the light. Very hard to see. I can see it with my eyes. It's hard to capture it on the camera. It's probably just a bit of burr sticking on there, left over from when they first sharpened it. It's also a very narrow knife, very thin in this dimension. I really like it though. Of the fixed blades, this is my favorite one so far. Let's check out the sheath. It's kind of an odd looking sheath. It kind of reminds me of one of those things that old-timey gangsters would knock you on the back of the neck with to knock you out, you know? What do they call it, a blackjack? It's a bit goofy. It's one of those nylon with the plastic insert sort of deals. Oh, it's pretty snug in there. Of course, I'm probably putting it in backwards. Yeah, that was it. Oh, almost. They could have had the bolster align with the angle of that plastic insert, but they didn't quite get there. I mean, I guess I could force it over there, and it still doesn't quite meet. Missed opportunity for something that's just pleasurable to the eye. Oh well. And then we got a snap. That's pretty snug. And then we have a print-on Ozark Trail logo. I like it. It's comfy. Nice chamfering all around and everything. No gaps. This is well made. I like it. Very cool. Go back to another folder. 7-inch folding knife, probably 3 here and 4 here. Stainless steel blade, polypropylene handle. And yes, this is a 3-inch blade, 4-inch handle combo. Now, let's see how this handles. For some reason I'm having trouble getting it going. It doesn't glide. And there we go. Getting a lot of debris from this packaging. Let's look around this one. I feel like the blade on this one is quite a lot darker. That black finish is just blacker. Or maybe it's because this one has those tool marks and this one's just kind of a flat grind, perhaps. Yeah, that might be it. Looking at it like this, they're about the same. We got a Warncliffe style blade going on here. It's very, very attractive. That Ozark Trail logo really pops against that black finish. You know, I never checked the lockup on the folding knives. They're fine. Ozark Trail's got that pretty much down pat at this point. Just remember, mileage may vary. One of my knives may suck, and you might look at yours and be like, what? It's fine. Or vice versa. Centering is pretty darn good. We have one of these high riding pocket clips, 2 screws, left and right of the pivot. Not a lot of tension at all, but that should slide it out of the pocket great. And I do like how after coming up, it sort of flattens out at the end. That helps with preventing it from catching on threads and stuff. Look at the handle. It's got this kind of stipply, bubbly look. It is kind of a harder plastic because it's polypropylene, probably of the high density variety. This would be really great if it was more rubberized. Throw some plasticizer in there or use shorter chain lengths in the polymer. Get that low density thing going on. There are a few things about this knife that I immediately really like. First of all, that is a great blade shape. It's one of my favorite blade shapes. They've recessed the liners into the scales. I do always like that. Just makes everything, I don't know, a bit cleaner looking. And the lockup is really good. Pivot is really smooth. It's on nylon spacers again. Flipper tab. I don't expect this to be able to flip. These usually need a little break-in. But that went pretty far for the very first deployment. Yeah, okay. I'm impressed. Consistency is... Oh, that's perfect. And they've even given you a little bit of a sharpening choil. Well, that's a contender. I don't know which one's my favorite anymore. What I can tell you is it is a hell of a lot lighter than this one. And even compared to the other folding knife, it's very light. I'll have to think about which one's my favorite toward the end. But we have another entry into that contest. It is another 7-inch folding knife. Yes, 3-inch blade, 4-inch handle. This time, the scales are titanium coated, and it's a frame lock knife. A little bit different, noticeably a lot heavier. They don't put any weight information on these things, and the opening is spring assisted. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Thanks. Not bad, not bad. Pretty similar blade shape to the previous knife, that Warncliffe sheep's footy kind of deal. Looking on the back, we have one of those sliding safety locks that we've seen before in that blue thing. Deep ride tip down only pocket clip. Frame lock moves pretty easily, and I can't close the knife for some reason. Is that the safety thing? Yes, the safety thing prevents you from closing it too. We'll have to explore that in a moment. It's a pretty handsome looking knife. It sort of reminds me of Cryo-ish. Nah, really. Forget I said that. Well, I do like that blade shape. Lockup is good. The frame lock is pretty soft. I can over travel pretty easily with that. There's no over travel protection of any kind. Although, is that really an issue though? Or is that a gimmick? I don't know. Centering is pretty good. Spot on. We do have thumb studs, which are pretty tough to actuate. I know some people do not like flipper tabs, but I do. And it works pretty well. Spring on it's pretty tight too. Looking around, I don't see anything, so it's probably all coiled up somewhere between the liner and one of the scales. And it starts to hit right about at the halfway point. So you can be assured that it will deploy pretty much all the time. That's pretty much the desirable thing with a spring-assisted knife. I don't care for them so much these days. The safety catch, oh, it's noisy. Well, I kind of liked it a little bit better with the blue one because when you slid it into the spot to keep it from opening, it had a nice little kind of a detent feel to it, where just like when it slid into place. This one kind of lacks that. It's got it when you pull it back. You can hear it. It'd just be nice if it had that on the other side as well. But it doesn't. When you're using your knife, and you can pretty easily slide that forward, I would imagine. It doesn't move out of the way when you go to close the knife. So, yeah, it's just hitting the back of that flipper tab. So you just got to remember, keep it out of the way when you go to close it. That feels very consistent. Nice job on that grind. And the scales have this little artistic, almost an Art Deco-y looking swoop that curves down through the middle and gets wider towards the base. Purely for looks, doesn't really seem to affect anything as far as I'm concerned. Another thing I've noticed that makes this knife a little bit different from the others except this one is there's a small difference in the logo. You see Ozark Trail Outdoor Equipment on both of those. None of the other ones have that. It just says Ozark Trail. And I know a lot of people really like the titanium frame lock getup. Just keep in mind that this is titanium coated, whatever that means. So it ain't like a Sebenza or something like that. So it's got the fidget factor. The one disadvantage about open assisted knives is that they are resistant to closing. You just gotta push your way through it. We all know this. Anyway, now we're at the point where I gotta pick a favorite, because this was all of them that I got. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to celebrate the end of 2023. A bit late, but here we are. I'm gonna stick with what I said about the fixed blades. I only got 2 to choose from, but this is definitely my favorite one. It's way, way cooler and better in the hand than I thought it would be looking at it. An interesting design. The polypropylene handles are just, it's plastic. They're gonna get scuffed up and scratched and stuff, so can't expect it to look this pretty forever. Now, of the folding knives, I would say this one's probably my least favorite. It's just not too comfortable, and even though the blade shape is pretty cool, I don't know, there's just something about it that doesn't look or feel good. It doesn't have much of a detent. That's a part of it. Listen to that. I wonder what that's about. These two actually look really similar. These would be a good companion pair if you wanted to carry one folding and one fixed blade, which a lot of people do that. Now, I initially really liked this one. I think it's down between these two. I might have to just go with this one. It's got a blade shape I prefer a little bit more, and I like the recessed liners. I'm not a huge fan of these like super skeletonized pocket clips, and you can definitely feel it's super weak. Like one wrong move, this thing's gonna bend, and then that's it. I don't know though. This one, it's the only 2 things about this one that kind of tick the negative boxes for me. Is the open assistance. I just much prefer a flipper if I had the choice between the two, and it's also it's so much heavier. But some people really like a nice beefy heavy blade, and that's the kind of pocket clip that I would prefer over the super skeleton-y one. Plus, it's a little bit of a deeper ride. I don't have much of a preference either way, the deep versus high ride. I like them both in different respects. They got similar-ish blades. I think the black one is a little bit more sheep's footish, and the satin one's a little more Warncliffy, even though the differences between the two are subtle. I might, you know what, I'm doing it. This is my favorite folder of the litter. That blade shape is just awesome. I like the compound grind where I don't know if that's not the right terminology. The swedge, the subtle curves all throughout there just have a very appealing look to me. Familiar enough with this blade shape that I know I would have a great time cutting stuff with it. The fact that it's big and heavy, those are things I can overlook because, you know what, when you're in the lab or wherever you cut things, the heaviness of the blade won't really matter too much because I'm not, sitting out in the woods bushcrafting for 3 years at a time. I just gotta cut up in a box once in a while, and I want to use a knife because they're fun and cool. I know, I sound like one of those, all my knives are safe queen. Yeah, you know what, I'm not even gonna get into it. That's just my preference, deal with it. And going in, if I were to tell myself, hey, the big heavy spring-assisted one will turn out to be your favorite, I wouldn't have believed you. Now, if I had to choose between these two, I would go with the fixed blade all day, all day. This just feels so good in the hand, and it looks neat too. So overall, this one's my favorite. We got half a dozen knives, half a dozen binks, and all the tinder you could want. This has been JJ Jinx. Truck Stop Dive.